Hi, thanks for joining us again for our one question for 2021. I'm Julie McCann and I head up the media practice for Odgers Berndtson in London. And I'm joined today with Enyi Nwosu. Hi, Enyi.
Hello, Jules. You all right?
Yes, very well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. This week, yet again, we're going to take one of, frankly, my favourite people in media and a big media leader to ask Enyi the same questions we ask everybody, which is, what are you optimistic about for 2021 in your industry? But first, I'll tell you a little bit about Enyi, and he can tell me if I've got this right or wrong. So Enyi's a Chief Strategy Officer. He is the Chief Strategy Officer for Universal McCann. He joined in April, like some of us who joined in the middle of lockdown. So that's got its opportunities and challenges, I'm sure. But over his 25 odd years, he's worked with some of the best known creative and media agencies and on some of the world's leading businesses and brands: General Motors, L'Oreal, Condé Nast, Ralph Lauren, Adidas, Saab Miller and Unilever, to name but a few. He also leads something called Studios, which is a team of content creators and producers, which is embedded within the strategy and planning teams at Universal McCann, which is quite unique. He leads that in order to enable to bring plans, platforms and ideas to life pretty quickly for clients, including J&J, Amex, European and Mattel. And he is passionate about the pace of change driven by technology and the opportunities it presents for fresh thinking and creativity. He's also committed to using our industry influence, skills and expertise to make a positive impact on society. And he's led the development of the Media Brand's 5-point plan, which is to accelerate change in creating a more equitable and equal environment within the agencies and strategic business units. So thank you for joining us, Enyi. And tell me, what, in the backdrop of a terrible 2020, what are you optimistic about for 2021?
Well, nice to be here. Lovely to see you. And why don't I take the last thing you said first, actually, which is the Media Brand's 5-point plan to accelerate change. I think this year's been really difficult for lots of people for lots of different reasons. But one of the things I'm really optimistic about, which I think we won't go back from, is definitely bringing more diverse thinking, create more equity, more belonging in the industry. You know, I've been doing lots personally, but, you know, been motivated and really excited by how much everyone's jumping in on that, because I think it's really important. And I think we've made the case for why it's important on a human level, but I don't think we made the case for why it's important for business. And I think next year we need to do even more as an industry to make the case for why diverse teams are better for business and the work that we do. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see the back of this year. As a sports fan, it's interesting that we're having this chat the morning after the death of Diego Maradona, and I knew it was going to be a bad year when Kobe Bryant passed in January. That was never going to be a good sign.
Bad omen. Topping and tailing it with sports bets.
Absolutely, it was a bad omen, particularly, thinking back to that time, which was January, and it's been a bit of a weird year. You know, he died with his 13-year-old daughter, and I've got a 13-year-old daughter. It couldn't have been more,
omen doom filled.
Yeah, more omen doomsday. And of course, we've seen what's happened since then. So, being serious for a minute, I think everyone's had a particularly tough time professionally and personally. Some are coping with it better than others, and we've seen lots of things the industry are doing to support people through it. So I'll be glad when we're at the back end of that, because when we're at the back end of that, I think we'll be more confident, and when we're more confident, we'll be more creative and do more interesting things. So I'm excited about seeing the back end of this year for that reason as well.
Yeah. Are there any things that have happened in 2020 in terms of the rate of change or kind of resilience and flexibility that make you optimistic for what might happen in the media industry for next year?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly from a digital acceleration point of view,
right?
There's been, anything you read will tell you that we've seen more change in that respect in the last 6 months than we were predicted to do in the next 5 or 6 years, I guess. So I think that digital acceleration has really hit clients and put it to the top of the agenda in terms of how they future-proof their businesses and their brands. So that's exciting, because I think that definitely puts media even more important in terms of thinking about media as an investment, beyond cost. I think that's really important, and that's good for us as an industry to support clients on that journey. And I think the second point is what you've just said about resilience, which is that, you know, we're trying to make our businesses more resilient. I don't think anybody would have thought we could work this way as seamlessly as nearly everybody has embraced it. It's quite extraordinary to think that it's almost become natural working in this way, whereas it happened overnight. You know, everyone's embraced that amazingly, and I think that's incredible. And I think lots of companies are doing brilliant things. I know we are, in terms of partnerships that we're creating to keep people resilient and keep them supported, because the other thing it's highlighted is that lots of people are working in different ways. It's more of a struggle for some, less for others, but at least we're acknowledging those realities and supporting people through it. I think that's been
it's interesting what you're saying about diversity, because I also think about in terms of neurodiversity, there's been quite a lot written recently about the fact that, particularly in agency settings, as you and I know, going back as long as we do, it's often the loudest person in the room that gets the most, you know, the most attention. And actually there are some incredibly important needs to make space for people who are neurodiverse, and particularly as data and technology, you know, those immersive work potentially has been quite beneficial for some people who are perhaps not the extroverts and can do their work really well on their own, and can have an ability therefore to be on an equal pegging and not be outshone by someone who's just a bit gobbier. Is that a fair assumption? Can you see a change in that in your blog?
Not only is it a fair assumption, I've actually heard individuals who are more introverted say that. So one of the things we did early in lockdown, excuse me, and I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, Kate Waters at ITV did an open chat for us, which was basically just a way of keeping everyone connected at the start of the first lockdown. We're in the second one now, obviously, Jules, aren't we? But the start of the first lockdown, and
never as good as the sequel's never as good as the original.
The sequel's never as good, and I suspect, like The Hangover, there'll be a third, and that'll be really terrible. Should never have made a third one of those films.
It genuinely will be Hangover.
Yeah, it will be. And Kate talked very openly about the fact that she's an introvert, and this way of working has been beneficial.
Yeah.
But she's not the only person I've heard say it. And I think it's interesting what you say about shout louder. Shout loudest, because of course that full saying is he who shouts loudest. And we've
I didn't say that, Enyi. I didn't say that.
You didn't say it. That's what I'm saying. You didn't say it. But we've all grown up in environments where that was almost lauded behavior, wasn't it? He who shouts loudest is the way to get things done.
Yeah.
I think we could definitely say goodbye to that behavior as well. And that's a very, very good thing, because just acknowledging that even when we do return into office spaces, that we've heard people talk about that neurodiversity, you know, what introverts need in order to feel like they can shine in our industry, as well as the extroverts who maybe naturally do shine, because it's an environment where you do get to, you know,
show off a bit.
Share your ideas and show off a bit. I mean, you know, think about pitching, which is the lifeblood of what we do, is brilliant for extroverts. So how do you make it even, you know, as an exciting experience for people who are less extrovert or even introverted? So not only is it, I think it's a very good question. I've actually heard people say very directly, like Kate, you know, I'm an introvert, and I've enjoyed this different way of working.
Yeah. And when you're looking at your teams coming back together, given that you're Chief Strategy Officer, you must also be strategizing over your own teams and working out how you're best going to put people together in specific ways, you know, who's in the building, what days do you go into. And there's quite a lot of cultural shifts that have happened in that short space of time that have made us throw all the cards in the air, haven't there? And around the clients and how that's going to work.
Yeah, and I think the diversity question, back to your neurodiversity, is about diversity of thought, as well as diversity of identity or characteristics. And I think the diversity of thought is something that we are all really hot on. You know, and I'm not just speaking from a media brands or IPG perspective. I'm sure it's industry wide. You do want diversity of identity, diversity of characteristics, but diversity of thought is really, really important.
Yeah. And do you think that, so optimistically, could 2021 be potentially the year when a respect for difference more holistically starts to come together as a sort of a deliberate, because we definitely feel that we go, you know, absolutely go really broad and really deep to make sure that we're creating a diverse list for our clients when we're recruiting. It's passionately important to us. We have a whole program called Unlimited for that, and we look at that in the round, and we can see that clients are absolutely putting that front and center. And do you think that maybe 2021 might be the year when people start to actually walk the walk rather than just talking about it, perhaps?
Yes, I do believe that, and I think this way of working has helped us actually. And I think none of us are going to go back to a 5 days in the office way of working again. And one of the things I'll think about pictures, for example, again, because that is the lifeblood of our industry, isn't it? And where we probably show up the best often, you know, in terms of leaving everything on the floor and just getting everybody's voice to be heard. And typically chemistry meetings or pitch meetings would be 2 or 3 individuals, possibly. But the way we're working now means that we've been able to, you know, give the whole team an opportunity.
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, because there's not a limit on numbers, and as long as you manage it properly, so that it doesn't feel, you know, out of control or there's too many people speaking. I've seen from the ways we've been working with existing clients and in pitches that you give the whole team more of an opportunity to have a voice in their own safe spaces as well, which I think also makes a difference back to the extrovert introvert point. And I don't think we will go back from that. So I think it's been brilliant in that respect, because even though we're not physically connecting, I feel like virtually we're creating even better connections, because everybody's on screen and you can talk to each other and people can put their hands up if they want to be polite and do it that way. But I do feel that we've been able to bring more people into the process visibly into the process than ever before. And that's a good thing. So that's definitely one of the silver linings from this year.
And do you feel with geographies as well? I feel like sometimes, certainly for us, you know, me coming to Odgers, there's no hierarchical distinction psychologically in my brain between people who live down the road or work in the London office versus my colleagues in LA or Germany or India, because I'm meeting everybody on the screen. Do you think that has helped to break down some of those natural kind of proximity barriers of tribes that form at work, so that you can actually work cross borders a bit?
Yeah, I mean, in my previous role, I had a global role. So from a personal perspective, we were doing a lot of that work anyway.
Right.
So I think for global teams, there probably hasn't been that much of a shift. Actually, or international teams, there hasn't been that much of a shift, because you're used to talking to from the UK, used to talking to Asia, you know, late at night for us, or conversely with the US. But I think from a UK perspective, a local market perspective, probably creating those connections more with other parts of the network. Again, I've seen that happen and scale to real benefit. So I think if you're local market based and maybe not so used to spending time with other parts of the world, you've seen a real positive shift. Because it always opens your eyes if you work with other cultures. That's what I found in the 6 years I was doing my previous role. There was never a day that you didn't speak to someone else in a different part of the world and didn't learn something new. So that's been really good. So I see that local markets are definitely benefiting from that, but I doubt it's changed the global operations that much.
Great. Well, before I actually could talk to you, as you know, all day, but is there anything in terms of, you know, if you're looking for, you know, what senior talent you've got on the bus or your clients have got on the bus, are there any particular themes like coming out of COVID that you just think you're going to look for more for, or skill sets or whatever for next year that perhaps would have been sort of less important previously?
That's a good question. Skill sets that we might look for that are different. I just think the ability to be flexible is gonna be key, Jules, to everything, because you have got to be flexible in the way we work, in the way we manage our lives and livelihoods, how we connect with other people, how we collaborate, how we bring presentations to life. You know, I just think the ability to be agile and flexible. So I think it's more of a mindset than a skill thing.
Yeah.
So we'd definitely be more looking at, as we start to recruit next year, it's that mindset. And we've always said, haven't we, that you know, higher attitudes teach skills. You should always do it that way around. But I think in this particular way of working, you know, never was a truer word, actually.
Yeah.
So,
brilliant. Well, that's a great place. That's a great place to finish. And the dog has been sitting very happily on your lap the whole time.
Very good. She's going to make a. She's going to make a
little guest appearance. Lovely.
Well, the kids are at school. She's the companion.
Lovely. Well, Enyi, as always, an absolute joy. Thank you. Hopefully see you in the flesh soon. Cheers.
Definitely.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.